So welcome to this second video about the problematization. So there is a process on the problematization where, of course, the core is the research problem, but there are some things that are around it. Like at the beginning, we need to define the topic. That is the first part of that process. And then we move to the next part, which is, as I say, the core, the research problem, and we finish with a research question. So let's focus now on the first part, the topic definition. And probably you have already thought about it. Maybe you already have something in mind that's good, or even if you don't have anything in mind, that's good also. So let's talk a little bit about the topic definition. So first of all, the topic definition is an iterative process. You never get it on the first try. And probably even when you start writing, maybe you will also modify slight things about the topic. Like maybe you narrow it down to something important, but then when you go and do your actual research, you want to add something else or take out something. Usually you don't change that much because otherwise you have to write everything again, but you can move even a little bit. So don't worry if you feel like you don't have the topic totally clear right now. Okay, so it's an iterative process, and the more you think about it, the better, because it's iterative. So the more iterations you can create, that's better. And also the more you can do in less time, it's even better. Another thing is that you should define your topic in a way that it's simple. Like try to not create a very complex topic or super narrow topic, because it will complicate things. Try to, especially at the beginning, try to start a bit broad, like try to think about a simple topic that you want to talk about. Also, kind of related to that is like write it in a clear way, like try to write that what is the topic, but in a very clear and defined way. Like also share it with people that don't know about your topic, so if they are confused, probably it's not clear enough. So try to write it, show it to someone who doesn't know about your topic, and then if they understand or if they don't have a lot of questions, then it's a good sign. And finally, make it relevant. And we're going to talk about that with more time and with even some strategies about how to achieve that. But remember, it has to be relevant in practice. So I think this is easy to achieve. To find something that is relevant in practice is quite easy, but relevant to theory. It's not that is not possible, like you won't fit in the theory or in the literature, because you can, but it's difficult to justify it, because I think in practice it's easy. Like, oh, I want to learn about this. Okay, it makes sense. Maybe you can do a business out of that. It's okay. But in theory, most of the time we end up saying like, why should I read your thesis if we already have a book about it? Why should I read about it? So that justification of why is this important is a bit difficult. Okay, so because of that, I want to show you some strategies about defining the topic. So this is probably the basic strategy that you will use: brainstorming. So you will have to put a lot of ideas. If you're writing the thesis in a group, it's even better, because then you have more people doing the brainstorming. If you are alone, you can also do it with your friend or maybe even your supervisor at some point. And you know how brainstorming works. Talk about different things. You can be visual, as it says in here, like try to use a board or something. Try to, of course, like have good ways of communication. Try to build on the ideas that people have already said, like instead of jumping from one to another idea. So, you know, brainstorming, basic stuff, because you will use it quite often. But apart from brainstorming, I also want to give you some more practically relevant ideas for your thesis, like things that are for the thesis, specifically for the thesis. So first, this thing, I call it the checklist, because it has 4 things that you should be worried about when you define your topic. And I use different size for each of these words, because I believe that the larger the bubble is, the most important that thing is. So the first thing is about how accessible that topic is for you in terms of you doing your research. Like, for example, I maybe be very interested on studying I don't know, Russian supermodels, right? Or the Victoria's Secret models. I am very interested on that topic, but I don't have access to that. I don't know any Victoria's Secret model. I don't know how to talk with them. I will be very nervous talking with a supermodel, and maybe I won't even have permission from my wife. So in terms of accessibility, I don't have anything. And even if that is theoretically relevant, if I find that there is something interesting theoretically in there, at the moment I don't know a lot about theory on that topic, but maybe there is. Interesting, well, of course, that's the most important thing in that topic. And empirically important, maybe it is empirically important. Other people might be interesting about this. So even if these three things are very, very important and they are okay in that topic, because I don't have access, my advice is drop that topic because you won't be able to make it. Maybe if you have a lot of resources and you have a lot of time, maybe you can push a lot, you can do networking, a lot of these things to find a way to reach that target, but you won't have the time, you won't have the resources, you won't even have the energy to do it when you are writing your thesis. So that's why if you don't have access to a topic, just drop it. Another thing that happened is that I am very interested. The other one was a joke, but this is true. Like I am very interested on studying how companies that are funded by the government develop their management control systems in South America. But to be honest, I don't have access to that because that information is not public. That information is quite sensitive. You need to be very close to people who have that. Maybe I have some contacts in Mexico, but not in other countries in South America. So it's very difficult. In the end, I even have to drop that as a research project now that I am a researcher. So in mine for a thesis, I will have to drop that because I don't have access to. So this is very, very important in terms of defining the topic if you have access to that thing. If you have access to that thing, then reflect if it is theoretically relevant. Probably the answer will be yes, that mostly everything can be theoretically relevant, but then think about how difficult it will be to make it theoretically relevant. And to answer to this question is how easy will it be for you to justify why do we have to study that concept, not the thing, not the real life phenomenon, but the concept. If I go back to the example of the Victoria's Secret models, what is the concept that I'm studying? Is it modeling, maybe? Or is it fashion industry modeling? What is it that I will challenge about that concept? What is different, or what is the assumption that I'm trying to attack in there? Like maybe I want to study like top fashion models because maybe at that level culture plays a very low role compared to more like commercial modeling, for example, like more like H&M and all of these things. But at the very top level, culture plays a big role, and maybe at commercial, no, like how they model and all of this, the pictures that are being taken, maybe that's more important when you are a top model compared to when you are a just commercial model. When you're a commercial model, culture is not that important. I want to analyze why that happens. That's a theoretically relevant discussion, right? And then I need to be honest with myself and say, how difficult is that? Is it difficult for me to kind of bring that argumentation and join that conversation that are used? Is it an effect or not? And how does it happen? That's the theoretically relevant part, and that's very important. I believe that almost everything is theoretically relevant, but some things are very difficult to make theoretically relevant and others are easier. So think about also that. And then interesting, because if you do something that you don't care, maybe you will hate that those 5 months of your life when you're writing your thesis, because maybe you hate the topic, right? So also think about making it interesting, and I believe that empirically important is the easiest thing to justify, because as I said, I think if you are studying anything, I believe it has some practical implications. But still, think about it, like maybe you want to study something that doesn't exist anymore, like feudalism for today's society. I think that's extremely difficult theoretically to justify, and even more difficult to justify empirically, because we don't need feudalism now. If it's from a historical perspective, maybe both work fine, but if it's for now, why would we use feudalism? Okay, so this checklist is very important. We're going to do an exercise later about it, and I will stop the video here, and in the next videos we will talk about other strategies to find the topic. Actually, we are still in the topic.